and I know about the garden. So, and my uncle was a chair of the Rotary in Straven many, many moons ago. So, yeah, so it's been nice hearing all your news. So yes, I've been at Children First for about 4 years. I've been fundraising for many years. It's my second career. I previously worked in the arts sector. Yeah, I'm delighted to be working for such a fantastic charity, especially in the last few years where we've had to be particularly agile and react to everything that's been going on to make sure that we can keep children and their families safe. And I must as well apologise for my husky tones. I've had a throat thing going on that has got worse and worse and worse. So that's why I keep taking a sip of my juice, because I just need to make sure that I don't start coughing on you. But if I do switch and go to mute, then please bear with me. I shall return. So what I'll do is I'll get on, I'll start the presentation. And maybe questions at the end, okay? If you
Yes,
maybe take a wee
perfect.
note,
Yep.
that would be great. Yeah, the only thing is that I can't see you when I'm making the presentation. So just in case anybody waves or tries to track my attention, I won't be able to see you. So please do be vocal. If you can't hear me properly, if my voice fades away too much, please do give me a shout and let me know. Is that okay? So I shall start to share my screen and tick the box, and then hopefully that will work. There we go. Oh, can you see that okay?
We can only see your editing view. You need, if you can put it into your slideshow.
Yes. Oh, there we go. There we go. Is that okay?
That's it. Great. Lovely.
Great. Great. Well, welcome. Welcome to Children First. As I say, I'm a senior relationship fundraiser for individual giving legacies. I think fundraising sometimes is a bit jargony, but individual giving, I look after everybody who gives from £1 to about £2,000 out of their own pocket. So not someone who, you know, runs a 10K and raises lots of money. And also the very generous people who leave gifts in their wills. So those are the two main focuses of what the people I look after. So yeah, welcome to Children First. What I'm going to do is start with a little bit of a resource that we use. One of the things we have is a kit bag, and a kit bag is a small collection of 4 items. We have a small-sized feelings card, which has colours that you can choose a colour to say how you feel. So you could feel turquoise today, you could feel red, and it's about helping children just to kind of convey how they feel, but in a non-judgmental way. We also have presents cards, and they go with the little minute timer. And the presents cards are very good because they give you a moment to be mindful. So, for example, if you know everybody's been running about in the playground or at home, and they want to just come in and they want to have a conversation, and we say, well, let's just sit down and do a wee minute. So, for example, the first card that I've got here says, imagine a really stormy lake gradually becoming calmer and calmer until it's glassy still. And it's all about just taking a wee moment just to settle down and be in the room. So the last selection within the mini kit bag are the presents cards, animal cards, sorry. So the animal cards can help you to think about the quality that everybody has. So, for example, you have the Robin of Courage, the Frog of Celebration, and what's quite nice is it helps you to talk about the strengths that you can have and that other people have, and to promote compassion and self-confidence. So there's lots of different ways that we can use these. What we tend to do is we'll say things like, pick a card. So what I'm going to do is I'll pick 2 cards. Pick 2 cards. There we go. And so I have the Black Bird of Hope, and the purpose, the cat of purpose. So I'll keep the blackbird of hope, because hopefully you'll be able to hear me right to the end of the presentation, and I'll give you the cat of purpose, because as a club you're full of lots of purpose, and hopefully that will inspire you to do even more. So that was just a wee kind of icebreaker just to get things started, just to show you there's lots of different things that we do to kind of build up a relationship and a conversation. So at Children First, we believe that children do well when their family does well, and any family can find themselves in crisis. Every family needs a little bit of help from time to time, and that's why we offer whole family support. And by doing that, we make sure that the basic needs of the family are covered. And by basic needs, I mean food, clothes, heat, bedding, and we make sure that a family has those things. Then we can start to build trust, understanding, and find ways to support a child with their problems. So this is our kind of vision. We want to keep children safe, loved, and well, and together with their families. Excuse me. So we offer practical, emotional, and financial support to prevent and protect children and their families from harm. And what we want to do is support them to recover from trauma and abuse. What we do is we work alongside children and young people and their families. We want to make sure that they have the rights, and that they have the strength to improve the systems that are there to support them. Excuse me. But going back to our name. So back in the 1880s, our founder, James Graham, was horrified by the poverty and neglect and abuse that children were suffering in the largest and wealthiest cities in Scotland. In 1884, he gathered a group of like-minded people together, and he was intent on founding a society for the prevention of cruelty to children. In the minutes of that meeting from 1884, and we do know this because we have a copy in our archives, it's noted that Graham wanted it to be understood in this meeting that the difficulties that surround us in the streets are enormous, and that the officers of the society and others are crippled because there is no legal power. So there was no legal power at that time to help abuse or help any children to have a better life. So through the meeting, Graham was exasperated by the lack of action, and he bellowed, "If not us, then who?" And we just think that's an amazing thing for somebody to say. He persuaded his audience not only about the desirability and necessity for legislation to protect children, but also of the immediate need for a rescue service. And the meeting that was there was led to the founding of the Glasgow Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. Later the same year, the Edinburgh Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children was set up. And in 1889, those two organisations merged, and they became the Scottish National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. So as you can imagine, after several name changes, and we also had an award of the Royal Charter, in 1995, the name changed to the more succinct Children First, which is a lot easier to say. So I'm glad I got through all of those ones without too many NSSSPCCCCs. We're often asked what is the problem now after the last couple of years. Children's mental health and well-being is a real concern. We know that families need their basic needs covered. They need to be fed, they need to be warm. In the fallout, especially after COVID, and especially in the cost of living crisis that we're in. The impact of money worries is also a big issue for families' mental health. Always a worry. And, if a family is worried about money, although you can hide it from a child tends to know that there is something wrong. We also have, we know that the psychological trauma, excuse me, including adverse and traumatic experiences in childhood, are more common than many people might assume. Trauma can impact a child's development and relationships and future opportunities. Also, you know, a trauma can be the most dreadful thing you can think of, but trauma for a child can be bereavement, it can be divorce, any kind of major emotional or physical moment that a child lives through can be classed as trauma. Excuse me. As well, in the moment, we're finding that 1 in 4 children across Scotland are living in poverty. And for kind of an idea of how what the numbers of that's 6 children in every classroom of 24, which is just horrendous to think that so many children are struggling. When the cost of living crisis started, families told us that they were choosing foods over fuel. And many families that have been turning to support, they're already stretched far too thin. And actually, many of the public services that should be there to support them are struggling too. Parents are doing everything they can to protect their children from the financial hardships that they face, but it's taking an exceptional toll on the parents' mental well-being. As well as providing practical help to families, we build strong relationships so that families don't feel ashamed, to be honest, about what's really going on in their lives. Because they trust us, we can better support them with all the challenges that they face so that they can continue to put their children first. I think that's the thing. We all know that if you don't trust someone, you're not going to tell them the kind of embarrassing things or, you know, the issues that you don't want to discuss in public. So that's why relationships and trust are so important at what we do. Our approach at Children First is very much about prevention, protection, and recovery. Our approach is rooted in the understanding that strong, safe relationships are what prevent and protect children from harm, and also they enable them to recover from trauma and abuse. We do that through lots of different ways. So, for example, we have a child-centred approach where we listen and support them. We also offer practical, emotional, and financial support. We build strong relationships. As I say, trust is so important, and whole family support. As I said before, we know that a child doesn't live on their own, and the whole family can really need to come together to understand what's going on. If something has happened to a child, whether it is trauma or abuse, we know the parents need to know how to have the conversations with them. Their siblings need to know how to rebuild their relationships, and that's so important. What we do as well is we work alongside families, and that's so different because we work alongside them to understand what they need, to give them the help when they need it, because we don't want them to get the help that we think they need. And that's really made a huge, huge difference over the last few years in our approach. So we're not kind of doing to them, we're working with them. Where do we work? Well, we work all over Scotland. We have 17 local services, all the way up in Moray to the Scottish borders, all the way to Ayrshire over to East Lothian, and lots of places in between. We also have 5 national services, and basically if anybody has any issues at all, they can get in touch through our helpline, Children First Parent Line, no matter where they live. Across our local authorities, the support that's available includes family group decision making, where we get families together to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the child, and the child is there in that conversation as well. So it could be they're not getting on well at home. Maybe the group decision is that they go and live with their gran and grandpa or their uncle or aunt. And it's that kind of coming together and being informed about how the child feels that really makes the difference. We also we do kinship care, which again is kind of somebody somebody kind of looking after a child that isn't necessarily a relative. Sometimes it is a relative, but it's so important. And they're not foster parents, so they kind of fall into different support systems. We also have trauma support as well, and just lots of really interesting groups for young people to come together to talk about how they feel in a group of their peers, to talk about issues that they want to discuss. Excuse me. I should also say no two services are the same. So what we do is we respond to the need in every area and we tailor the support for those that need it. So for example, in East Renfrewshire, we have a different service in that we work alongside the GP surgeries in that area. So that if there's any children that come into the doctor's surgeries who need to get to referred to the Children's Health and Children's Health and Adolescent Service CAMHS, then they can also get in referred to Children First, and that means that they can get seen earlier, and by that early support, hopefully we can help them to recover sooner. What I'm going to do next is talk about a few of the ways in which we work. There's too many different things that we do to talk about everything. We would be here all night and into next week. So I've chosen a few things. But if there's anything that comes to mind that you think that you want to talk about, or you want to ask me if we do, then please do let me know. As I've mentioned, we have Children First Parent Line, and this is part of our kind of prevention strategy. This is a national service. It offers support to families all across Scotland at the touch of a button online. We do texting, on the phone, and it's open 365 days a year. Last year, we offered support, well, 22-23, we offered support to over 5,500 people, and that is within 2,249 families through support sessions. So one family member could call, but the support sessions could involve the whole family, or maybe an adult and a child. During the year, Children First Parent Line have seen an increasing level of the complexity and the circumstances and issues faced by families. And these families are, to ring a helpline is such a huge step. And, our volunteers and our staff who are on the other end of the phone are fantastic. And they really put everybody's mind at ease. The top 3 reasons that families have reached out for support were people ringing about their child's emotional well-being, family relationships, and parental mental health and well-being. Parent Line was a fantastic service, especially during the pandemic. It was already there, and it just became more agile in that we were able to use Parent Line as a kind of opportunity to families to get in touch. Then they would work with our services to make sure that local support was on the ground. Or if that wasn't available in that area, they would organise things directly with the family, which was just invaluable. Another part of our fantastic family is money advice. And money advice is much more than financial relief. The financial well-being teams are in a lot of our services, but we also work alongside Children First Parent Line. So if somebody rings up and says, I've got no money left to put in the meter or to buy food, or, I'm really struggling, I don't know what to do next, this team are fantastic. They will get in touch. Over the course of last year, they managed to put over, £927,000 back into families' pockets, excuse me, and managed over £308,000 worth of debt. Excuse me. Excuse me. This kind of support includes ensuring that families are accessing the right benefits, helps them get help to manage debts, or rearrange payment plans for rent arrears that can prevent a family from being evicted. In one case, we had a mum who reached out for support. She had been made redundant, but she secured a new role quickly. However, just before she was about to start the job, she received devastating news that the role had been scrapped. It was no longer available. So she had to start her job search again. And you know, the time between those jobs, you know, she still has all her bills to pay, still has all food to get, still to provide, you know, for her children and make sure that they're safe and warm. She did get another job and was successful, but however, there was a delay before she started. And during this delay, that resulted in financial difficulty. Because of that, she had incurred rent arrears. And the money advice team were able to support mum to have a conversation with her housing authority and to negotiate payments which were achievable for her once she'd got back on her feet. And it just highlights that so many families are being pushed to crisis point through, you know, no fault of their own. They're just so far on the edge. And that's why the support that we provide is so vital. Protection is so important, and what we do is we campaign for children's rights. Hopefully, I'm sure you must have heard about the United Nations Convention for the Rights of the Child, and we were really proud to join with other children's charities across the country to campaign for it to be law in Scotland, because every child has the right to be safe at home with their family and grow up surrounded by happiness, love, excuse me, and understanding. I mean, for example, if you don't know, the UNCRC is actually brought into law in quite a few countries. Well, I want to say it's something like 48. And the articles within the convention include things like protection from violence, the right to healthcare, food, water, the right to food, clothing, and a safe home. So some of it is really basic stuff that we need to make sure that children are able to access. Another thing that we've been really keen to play our part in delivering is the promise. The promise was the findings of the independent care review that came out, I want to say 2020, beginning of 2020. And the promise, when it was published, it really sparked hope for for Scotland's children, and the young people and families, especially those with care experience. So people who had been through the care system. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that whatever it takes to get families support they need at the earliest stage. Because if we can get them help at the earliest stage, then hopefully that gives the family a better chance to stay together. And what we want to do is make sure if they stay together, then hopefully that will give a more secure future for the child. And more importantly, the children's voices are actively shaping the decisions that are made about their future. And as I say, things like family group decision making is one of the ways that we make sure that children's voices are heard. Bairnshuis, I'm not sure, for those of you that are in the country, a few weeks ago we launched Bairnshuis. Bairnshuis is when children experience the trauma of abuse and violence, and they all have a right to get care, support, and justice they need to recover and thrive. Scotland's first Bairnshuis is based on the internationally renowned Barnahus model, and that is being adopted across Europe and is underpinned by the UN Convention for the Rights of a Child. It's a trauma-informed, this is really another bit of long language, it's a trauma-informed multidisciplinary approach, and it unites services for children who have experienced abuse and violence and their families, and it ensures that the rights of the children, that they get the justice, the care, and the protection that they should be entitled to, that they are upheld. So what we mean by the multidisciplinary part of it is that we actually it's a physical house, and everyone comes to the house. When the child, we know what's happened to the child, that instead of going to a police station, a lawyer's office, a medical suite, all these different social work offers, all these different places. What we find is that sometimes a child can tell their story 14 times and actually it ends up re-traumatizing them. So the idea is that they will come to one house for everything. They will come to the one place and everyone will come to visit them. It's a really lovely space. It's comforting, it's safe, and it's designed to promote the recovery of the child. And what's really inspiring is that by developing Bairns House, we're actually changing the system. We can offer children in Scotland care and protection and access to justice. And it is about it's being comfortable, it's being safe, and it's being designed to promote their recovery in so many ways. As I said, each room in the house has different. Each room is designated for a different reason, whether it is to give evidence, whether it's to receive medical care. It really is a really lovely space and it's really thoughtful. I mean, we've so many young people who have been part of this process. It's been we've got a group called Changemakers who have been through this horrendous process. One of them shared that she spent, hours in a corridor in a police station with nothing to drink, nothing to eat. It was cold. She had just went through, a horrific experience, and she felt all alone. And as we say, Jasmine there, when she went to court, she'd sit in an empty box room with no windows, no suites or anything. And for a 9-year-old, that is so traumatic. So Bairns House is part of changing this system to improve it. So far for this project, we've had the first 2 years of the Bairns House. We've got a support team and they have received 133 requests for support and they've supported 100 children, young people and parents. 38 of that 100 have already completed their support during this period, but 62 are still receiving support at the end of year 2. And it could be due to several reasons, such as delays in court cases, which is again a recurring issue that we've found. You've heard quite a lot from me, so I'm going to chance my luck and hopefully the link will work. If you can't hear it, please do shout out. This is a wee tour of the Bairns House.
Welcome to Bairns House! Welcome to Scotland's first Bairns House, which children and young people have helped to design. Today we're going to show you around the wee house and explain what happens when a young person visits. The Bairns House has been built thanks to the funding from the players of People's Postcode Lottery and in partnership with Victim Support Scotland, Edinburgh University and Children England.
The Bairns House looks and feels like a safe space, where children feel welcomed.
Children and young people will come here instead of courts, social work offices and police stations, which can be scary for children.
When a young person arrives, they will be met at Bairns House with the support worker from Children's First. The first place they'll come into is the kitchen where they can choose drinks and snacks.
When they're ready, they'll be shown into the welcome room. These rooms have been designed to help children feel calm and relaxed.
They can choose their own toys, games, blankets or cushions to help them feel comfortable.
If they want, they can have any grown-up with them. They will wait here until it's their time for their interview, and they can ask any questions about what's going to happen.
The interview will take place with a police officer or a social worker. The police officer won't have a uniform on. They'll be specially trained in how to interview children and young people.
The interview room has been designed to be a calm and quiet space. Nobody outside the room can hear what is being said.
There are special cameras in the room so that the interview can be recorded. This means the child can talk about what's happened and get all the help they need without saying it again and again. There is a room where the interview will be watched by a second police officer or social worker. The child will be shown this room on their way to the interview room.
There is a room where a child can get any health support that they need. There's a small office space in the Bairns House for the team to use.
The recovery room is like the welcome room, with comfy sofas, cushions, rugs and toys, and it also has doors out into the garden.
In this room, the children and young people work with their Children's First recovery worker to help them begin and move on from their experiences.
They'll be able to work with the Children's First team for as long as they need.
Children can choose to come back to the Bairnshuis for this, or be with their worker wherever they want, for example, at home or in a park. The Bairnshuis has a specially designed healing garden. It's very private and peaceful,
with lots of nice smelling plants, trees and a garden room. Some children might like to meet their Children's First worker here.
The Bairnshuis courtroom has its own entrance and its own courtyard garden, with seats and a lovely water feature. It has a live link to the court so that children can give their evidence from a quiet, safe and comfortable place. We hope you enjoyed our tour of the Bairnshuis today. We're so happy to show you around. Bairnshuis is now open!
Well, glad that worked. Oh, there we go. Yeah, just to go forward. So those are some of the great things that we've been doing. But we do have goals. So our goals for the future, we've recently reviewed our strategic priorities. And what we're going to do is continue to align our strategic goals to our core purpose. And that is to prevent abuse, neglect and trauma by offering practical and emotional financial support to children and their families. And what we want to do is for them to overcome the challenges that get in the way of strong, safe relationships. We want to support children and their parents and carers to recover from the impact of childhood adversity, childhood adversity and trauma. We want to ensure all children's rights are respected, protected, upheld in legislation, policy and practice. We work together. We do lots of fundraising and volunteering. We recently had a partnership with the Scottish Football Association, so we had lots of people out collecting. We do tilt walks, 10Ks, all the kind of different things that charities do. I have a colleague who keeps trying to get me to do a skydive, to which I always say, no, thank you, not today. So, but we do lots of different things, whether it's bucket collections and things like that. So we've got a really great network of volunteers who are really supportive, as well as corporate partners who also support us in so many different ways. We've had corporate partners who recently came to help us at our service in West Lothian, and they were helping to paint the garden, to put in plants and do all those kind of things. We've got lots of things going on, yeah, hopefully you'll get a gist today of all the different things that we do. Every penny that is raised for Children First stays in Scotland to help families who live here, and that's been we know is really important to our volunteers, and also for our purpose. As you know, according to our founder, that was why we were set up, to make sure that we protect children in Scotland. So thank you so much. Just as a group of like-minded Scots came together to protect and to prevent children from harm in 1984, we do need help from individuals, partners, communities, organisations and businesses to help children today. So thank you very much for listening to me. And hopefully if you want any more information, if you want to learn any more about how we help children